corner where the treats at.
Is this the passing of the torch, right? Is this what this signifies?
It comes down to that front office and what they feel is most important.
The champ is here. We touched down from a higher plane. Why you made it here?
We always look forward to that week because it was always intense.
You know that we ain't coming back. We about to.
The man, the myth, the legend, Dante Hall. My favorite player growing up was Dante Hall. I love you guys, Joe, but Dante was my guy.
Get to dashing because you done on the warfare.
This episode of Chief Concerns is brought to you by betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Chief Concerns, your post-game show. Wow. So 30-29, I thought we were going to win by at least a touchdown coming back from 17. I didn't realize it was the biggest comeback in a regular season in the Mahomes era. So that was pretty crazy. Lance, how you doing, buddy?
A lot better. Let me just put it like that. I told you before we did the show tonight, my heart has not stopped beating out of my chest ever since one particular horrific officiating decision took place. But let's just say it's a really good thing the Chiefs got out with a victory tonight. And I'm sure we're going to break all this down. But let me just put it like that. I'm doing a lot better than I probably would have been if factors would have went the other way for the Chiefs tonight. Let me just say that, Marcus.
I'll tell you what, I thought it was going that way. So that 3rd and 3 call we had at the end where we throw that, and it also looked like McColl and Mahomes were kind of off, like not on the same page there. Looked like McColl was running like a post, and Mahomes threw that upfield. That was kind of a weird call. 3rd and 3, I know we're trying to end the game there. That doesn't happen. Then you got the 4th and 1 call in the other one with the Raiders when they didn't run the ball with Jacobs, who was getting 4 to 5 yards, a handoff. Then you throw that bomb up to Devontae Adams, and he runs into Renfro. What did you think of the play calling at the end on both sides? I thought it was just too cute on both sides. What do you think?
Yeah, it really felt like both offenses were overthinking the situation. I especially like as we talked about before the show again. Josh Jacobs was getting everything they wanted on the ground. It felt like the old days of Clinton Portis just running all over the Chiefs back in the mid-2000s where you just could not stop him. And Josh Jacobs was unbelievable tonight. I don't know what Josh McDaniels was trying to do. Maybe he was trying to make a statement and justify, trading for Devontae Adams. He wants to be the guy in the primetime games to make the big plays. And he was making plays throughout the game, but we all know that the Raiders' attack tonight was at its most efficient when they were getting stuff on the ground. And for whatever reason, the Chiefs were getting bullied in the run game. But the first month of the season, they weren't. They were giving up around 65, 66 yards per game, and they got destroyed tonight on that. When it came to the Chiefs on 3rd and 3, that pissed me off so much, man, because you saw that to the point of Josh Jacobs getting whatever he wanted on the ground. The Chiefs were getting a lot in the flats, especially towards the end of the game with Sky Moore, those quick little arrow passes that Patrick was throwing to him. I would have liked to have seen something like that, or if you want to make it a little less predictable, do something like an RPO play. But I don't understand the shot put pass where you're trying to take a deep shot. If it's Travis Kelce or someone who's a little bit more reliable on a normal basis, I'm okay with taking that shot in that sense. But when it's your wide receiver 3/4 and McCole Hardman, who's already dealing with a leg injury, I don't think that's the right decision to make. Now, maybe that wasn't the initial call that Reed and Bieniemy threw up there. That may have been Patrick Mahomes just deciding to take that shot himself. Regardless, that was just not the right call at all, man. I think the Chiefs really gave the Raiders second life in that opportunity where they didn't have to. They could have just ran the ball, got maybe another couple yards and going for it on 4th and short, and then try to just kill that clock down where the Raiders didn't have the ball at all. There was just a lot of other ways I would have gone about it.
Yeah, and we're hearing from Vegas Chiefs fan. Chiefs should have stayed aggressive on that last drive. I got real nervous when they just wanted to run out the clock. I mean, we're talking on the other end of things, we were kind of getting everything we wanted with those little bubble screens to Sky Moore, which why are we seeing Sky Moore? I thought Sky Moore was coming in as Hardman was hurt. Hardman was still healthy. That's why we did that 3rd and 3 bomb to him. Why are we waiting till the fourth quarter to use Sky Moore on such a pivotal drive? And all of a sudden, quarters 1 to 3, I don't see Sky Moore. Quarter 4, he comes in. He looks great on those bubble screens he was getting. Why are we waiting until the fourth quarter? Not that I'm questioning our offense or anything, because we looked fine today. But let's get this guy the ball. I know you and I've talked about this before, getting more involved. But wait till the fourth quarter on such a pivotal drive to use him. Utilize him from the get go. I think he's ready. If we're trusting him enough to to get those balls and that in that possession, let's still start out earlier, because our offense, obviously, we weren't clicking to start that game, not at all.
Yeah, and it all starts with the offensive line. Let me just attack what you said first and foremost. I agree with you completely. I think Sky Moore was obviously drafted as early as he was on this team because they knew that they were going to need him throughout this season. Not in a couple of years. They knew that this was going to have to be a guy that, as the season progressed, he was going to have to start playing some pivotal moments, and that's exactly what he did tonight. I think if I could speak for Andy Reid, which I don't mean to do, but if I was going to speak for the coaching staff as a whole in their offensive attack, I think they were liking what they were getting out of MVS. I think they liked what they were getting out of, obviously, Travis Kelce just absolutely snapped tonight in the red zone. But I think they were looking at it like, okay, if we're getting this from MVS, if we're getting Noah Gray open in the flats, if we're getting these third down, if we're starting to catch a rhythm on third down, maybe we just keep his legs fresh at the end. But I agree with you. If it was my option, if it was my decision, I would have played Sky Moore throughout the entire game at a much higher rate, because you clearly see when this guy's in space, he is clearly the fastest, or at least the quickest off the line on this team. He's the quickest on the line receiver on this team that they have. I think McCole or MVS is the fastest overall receiver on the team, but getting off the line, getting those little quick slants, things of that nature, I think Sky's going to be that guy for the foreseeable future, and I'd love to see him play a little bit more. And I think that just given the short amount of time he had tonight, he made impact for the second consecutive week, because as we saw in Tampa Bay last week, he caught multiple third downs and got about 16 yards per catch. He did just as much tonight, and I'm really proud to see what he's become already. But I think you and I would both agree, and I was going to hope to segue to this when it comes to the offense tonight. The biggest blunder they had, again, man, for the second, third time this season, is how horrific their pass protection is from the tackle position. I mean, Orlando Brown Jr. was awful again tonight, man. And I have been the biggest defender of Orlando Brown Jr. I've been the biggest defender of Andrew Wiley because he's a great fill-in guy. And we knew that Trey Pancake Papa Smith was out tonight. So we knew that Allegretti was going to do his best. And I thought Allegretti played fine tonight. But the beginning of the game, the Chiefs' offense could not get in rhythm because Patrick Mahomes was not getting an opportunity to read the field without getting pressured by Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones came into this game with 0 sacks, man, and he was in the backfield for the majority of the night. So the offensive line got better as the game went on, but, man, they struggled out the gate for sure.
Yeah, I agree with it. I will say second half, the offensive line did look, it was night and day compared to what it was in the first half. But JD, we got our resident tight end joining us. JD, how you doing, buddy?
What's up? What's going on? How y'all doing? Y'all doing all right?
Roller coaster of a night, I'll say.
The blood pressure has subsided, JD. The blood pressure has subsided.
Listen, I don't know if Marcus told you or not, but I had my Done for Kids Foundation thing today. And so I didn't get to catch like any of the first half and none of the third. So I seen like a little bit of the fourth quarter. Mark was kind of keep me updated on some things because I'm thinking, the Chiefs going to have this handily, right? And I'm just like, man, I know I'm going to look at this. It's going to be a blowout. And I got the text that they were up, 20-10 or something like that?
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm driving on the road like, what? Wait a minute, hold on. I know this text can't be right. There's no way. This is not happening in Arrowhead Stadium. So what did I miss? So
well,
I'll get my
Marcus, do you have a flag that maybe you could throw at the screen? That would be a good indicator of what JD missed. You just throw a flag. Just throw it like 8 times.
Oh my gosh.
If you sit still and don't touch anybody, that's still there you go. That's still considered roughing the passer. That's what you missed.
Jeez,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
You saw the video I sent you because I said the worst pass. What do you call it? Rough the passer of all time. I say in the video. What was your reaction when you watched that clip?
I almost wrecked again. That was atrocious. I'm like, what? Wait a minute, hold on. Like, what was? What were they looking at? What did they say? So, did they say that maybe he put his weight on him when he drove into the ground? Is that what they said, or how did they say? Like, I don't know.
They didn't, JD, they didn't justify it at all. And if you watch the replay, Chris Jones gets the ball before he actually even makes the sack. So how in the world can a guy commit roughing the passer when he took the ball from him? It's the possession's in the Chiefs' hands.
Right.
The play should be, it's over right then and there. And they fall together because the momentum's there. The inertia is already going that direction, so they're going to fall. But Chris Jones is focusing on having the ball in that moment. There's under no circumstances should there have been a flag. And if they do throw that flag, there needs to be a discussion where it said, hey, look, Chris got the ball. 95 had the ball. You got to pick up that flag and say there's no penalty for roughing the passer. But even if there is, even if the flag stays, you have to show us, pinpoint a specific piece of that video clip that says this is unnecessary, this is roughing the passer, because under no circumstances was there anything even close to that, man. And it's crazy to me that the two worst roughing the passer penalties I've ever seen in my life were against Chris Jones. The one in the 2018 AFC Championship against Tom Brady when he flicked his nipple, and then this one when he just simply makes a great defensive play, strips the ball from Derek Carr, and somehow gives them second life in a 15-yard penalty. It makes no sense, man. I don't. You know this game far more than I will ever, because you've played at this game at the highest level, man, and I can't explain it. So if you can't, I think we have a real problem on our hands, man, at the highest level.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think, it has to be something, like you said, a clear indication, right, on the rules. What you're saying, like, look, this right here classifies as roughing the passer. It can't be anything else in between of that, right? I mean, you just really can't. And if it is, then I think that maybe what you have to do, especially with something like this, you might have to go and review it. We may have to get to that place and say, well, let's review and see if this is actually a penalty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially something like that when you're talking about it's going to be significant in maybe giving a first down or whatever, maybe keep a drive going. Then it's like, listen, let's review this penalty. We have this point of it. I think in the future, that's what you need to do. But man, when I see that, I just couldn't believe that they actually called that roughing the passer. I just couldn't. So, well, if that was an indication of how the game was going, and during that time, then that was just bad officiating all the way through.
I mean, I thought that would have been a game-changing turnover at that point in the time in the game right before halftime. Luckily, we still came away with 3 points. But I will say today's conversation across all sports shows was that Tom Brady sack that happened yesterday, which they called roughing the passer as well. But Colin Coward actually brought up a good point. He said, the NFL is trying to stop these bad injuries to quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
However, there has to be some kind of in between, and the college game, for example, with targeting penalties. For every targeting call, you guys know that they stop the game, they do a review on it. So what he was saying was, let's try to adapt what the college game is doing with this roughing the passer penalties and do a review on it.
Yeah.
And see if it is a roughing the passer. I know everyone's gonna get mad. Oh, the game's gonna take forever. I mean, but like realistically, how many roughing the passers really happen during a game? 1 or 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick. JD, I know you have, like I said, much better view on this, but just from my point of view, doesn't that sound like compensation for your incompetent officiating? Because you're having to review something that, to me, is very cut and dry. For how long now have we known what roughing the passer is? We've known. Like, I know that there's been confusion in the league about what a catch is or what a catch isn't, because there's still this nuance and not really understanding what it is in the league. But to me, I feel like there's a pretty clear and evident idea of what roughing the passer is. When the ball is out of his hands, he's vulnerable in a situation, and you take a cheap shot at him, that's roughing the passer. Not when he has the ball in the pocket and you strip it from him and you happen to land on him. That's not roughing the passer. So I agree. I would like to see reviews, but it's only because of the fact that the NFL doesn't have officiating that we can trust. That's the whole reason. It isn't because it's such a difficult thing to decipher. It isn't, because we're common fans here. Well, JD, you're not. You're a former veteran player, but we're fans here. We all can identify what is and what isn't roughing the passer. Why can't these guys who are paid to do this do the exact same thing that we can, which is properly identify it? It doesn't make sense to me, but at this point, we have to look for alternatives. We have to look for solutions, and if reviewing them is the solution, we have to do it.
Yeah, because the pendulum's swinging too far to the other side. We're going with the concussion stuff. Now we're kind of taking over and like every kind of hit to the quarterback. Well, not every hit, because Mahomes gets thrown around like a rag doll and they don't say anything about it. So, JD, I think JD's feed is frozen. JD, you there, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you, but your feed is frozen.
Yeah. No, let me try to switch this thing up. I like every point you just made, though, Lance. I really do. And I agree with you. But I mean, it has to be some type of option. We can see these things happening, right? Why is it that these guys are having such a hard time making these decisions, right? So if you confer with New York all the time when something comes up, why not confer with them on these particular things as well, right? I just think that's necessary right now. Especially, I'm sure New York is sitting there saying like, maybe not. Okay, if I'm disagreeing with you on that, okay, am I giving the rest that's on the field complete autonomy when I know that they may be necessarily wrong, right? I think look, you're making a call anyway, and so if that call comes in at that moment, especially in a game like this, there's no reason why you shouldn't look over this. I don't think that you should at least say, look, let's just go ahead and go with the call that we made, even though we may hear that it's wrong, right? I think we need to revisit this. I really do. So.
Yeah. But I mean, and also Raiders fans online, and even some Chiefs fans were saying the hold that after Matthew Wright misses the kick, you got the JD. We lost JD's feed there. He'll be coming back on probably. Technical difficulties. It's 2022. We got a lot of technical difficulties. But the hold on the Raiders, which you don't really see a hold on kicks. So obviously, I know NFL they don't do makeup calls. They don't say they do makeup calls, but was that a makeup call? I think so. I mean, and a lot of people say we got bailed out because of that, but you could say that they got bailed out for us not getting the ball there at the 50, whatever it was at the time that roughing the passer strip sack. But what did you make of that field goal, that the holding on the field goal?
Yes, I agree. I mean, if you watch the replay, he did hold. But here's the problem. We see that play 100 times a week, and that doesn't get called. This is the whole entire problem. Oh, JD's back. Awesome. This is the entire problem with what I'm talking about when it comes to the inconsistency of officiating. It's not one crew, even though I think that Carl Sheffers is the worst officiating crew chief in the league. We've seen this throughout the years. Travis Kelce 6 years ago called him out about that horrific penalty they called an Eric Fisher to James Harrison on the 2-point conversion Alex Smith converted that would have won the Chiefs a playoff game. That we've seen this throughout time, man, that this guy just is incompetent with his officiating staff. On that play, I wouldn't have called that holding. Even though it did bail the Chiefs out in a sense, I wouldn't have called that holding call. I would not have called it. But here's the other thing. We have to remember that in the first half, that JD did say he didn't get to see the first half. They spotted the Raiders essentially 10 points in that first half. It should have been 10-10 going into halftime because of the fact that if we watch that DPI they called on Jalen Watson, which was horrific, we had Davante Adams pull him into his body. Jalen Watson did nothing on that to call DPI on him, and that put the Raiders on the 1-yard line. And then you see the most horrific penalty I've ever seen on Chris Jones that gave the Raiders field goal advantage to get those 3 points and put them up 20-10 to go into the second half. They were spotted 10 points. So as much as we can sit here and talk about that bad holding call, when you're spotted 10 points, I think you can live with one bad call. That's just my opinion.
JD, at the beginning of the game, what Lance alluded to, I don't know if you saw the play where they got the ball at the 1-yard line. It was a bomb, underthrown bomb that Carr throws to Adams. Adams goes up for the ball, and Watson was right there. It was Watson, right? Watson's right there. Adams goes up for the ball, but he ends up bringing Watson into him. Like, he ends up grabbing him and bringing him with him. They call a DPI on that. As receivers, you're supposed to. I mean, you're trained to go up and get the ball. Contact.
So you want to try to force going through the guy to get that call, right? Because if he didn't turn around, he's space guarding him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. Is that what it was? Is that what it looked like? Or
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, if you watch the replay, and I know you will, JD, you see Davante. It looks like he's going up for the ball, but I think he realizes he's not going to get it because it was severely underthrown, and he kind of bear hugs Jalen Watson, and it makes it look like Jalen Watson's initiating the contact, but that is in no way. It's in no way, shape, or form what happened. In no way, shape, or form. Jalen Watson played that as good as he could have. It was not his fault that Derek Carr threw an arm punt and Davante Adams couldn't make up for it. That's not his fault, and they should not have thrown that penalty. It was an horrific penalty, man.
Better remove, man. Look, a veteran, he knows what to do. He knows how to play that game, right? It's like, and what I'm doing is I'm actually playing that I'm getting human error from the referees, right? Like, I got to try this just to make sure, they may call it, may not, but, he's taking a chance to do it. I mean, I understand that. Let me ask this, and the guy was asking earlier. So whoever was coming on here was talking about the secondary. So what was the secondary play in your estimation for the night against Davante Adams?
Yeah, so I didn't think the secondary played very well at all. And obviously, when you're playing against Davante Adams, who is the single best receiver in the league, you're gonna get toasted a lot of times. I think as they said in the comments tonight. But here's my problem: is I don't believe that Spags had a good night tonight. I think Spags set his guys up for failure time. I'm just going to say that. I'm a big fan of Spags, but I am critical of him when I need to be. And tonight I think it's fair to do so because of the fact you have a 7th-round pick in Jalen Watson, and you have I believe, a 5th or 6th-round pick that's now in his 5th year in Rashad Fenton, who's struggled all season long. You're putting these guys on one-on-ones against Davante Adams? Like, are you kidding me? Like, do you really think that's going to work out for your team and benefit your team? They were getting toasted. I understand they could probably do a better job, but when you're one-on-one against a guy who's in his prime, who's going to go down as a first-ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver in this league, I have a hard time believing that's going to work out for you far more than it's not. Now, we did see adjustments in the third quarter when Spags put Snead on him one-on-one, and you saw Snead put the clamps on him for an entire drive. I will say that Spags did that, but as the game went back on, you saw Spags kind of go back to that, and I didn't like that at all. But yeah, overall, I don't think the secondary had a very good game. But here's the thing, man. It's a long, grueling season, and when you've had one bad game all season, because we talked about it on the Spoken Podcast this week, to this point, the Chiefs' defense has not having had a bad drive. This is the first game they've had a bad drive. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and saying that this was just one of those games where you go up against one of the best that you've seen. It's going to happen, but I didn't like what Spags did to start the game.
Okay.
Adams only had 3 catches on 7 targets, though. I mean, for one of the best receivers in the game, he didn't get a catch till the fourth quarter up until one of our commenters said that he didn't get a catch until the fourth quarter after that second quarter one where he caught and fumbled it. Yep. And then he had that bomb at the end, which that's what I'm saying. Snead in the third quarter, Spags put Snead on him. In that third quarter, Davante was basically a 0 at that point. So adjustments were made. I mean, Renfro wasn't catching anything either. Renfro had 9 targets and 4 catches in the game. I mean, really, Josh Jacobs was the kind of the reason why Raiders were in this game. And JD, I know you saw the fourth quarter, but pretty much that entire game, Josh Jacobs was getting 4 yards, falling forward for 4 yards all day long.
Yeah, he looked dynamic running the football, man. There was a lot of holes in it. You're just seeing. But he looked like he's been coming on lately anyway. I mean, what he had like 100 and something the week before?
Against Denver? Yeah, he ate up Denver too. That's contract year, man. He wants that money.
Yeah, no, sure. I get it. But kind of going back to the, like you were saying, Lance, if you sit over talking about like going against, Davante Adams, right? And it's just my Joe is better than your Joe. And I get Spags might be like, listen, you know what? Let me test these young guys early, okay? Let me challenge you. So if I have confidence in you, I want to see what you can do, right? And like you said, sometimes it might just be a bad scheme. If I'm trusting a guy, to really, drop his cojones and go out there and play your best receiver in the game, what that does, it molds him to be a much better corner later. Dang, I froze up again. Y'all still hear me, right?
Yeah, I still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like that look anyway. But I think that's what it is. I think it's just the challenge that he's giving the young guys, right? And just seeing, how well they're going to be able to do against a guy like this, the elite receiver in the NFL, okay? So they'll be better for it, obviously, you know what I'm saying? Because go ahead and take your lumps and stuff right now. Learn how to go against a guy like this right now and become better for it, right? So, but I do understand that point. Man, like you said, if he's toasting you, like I heard, we were talking to he was talking about that earlier. Like, man, I don't like, going against man-on-man against, Davante Adams. And if Fenton was struggling, then like you said, if Steve comes in, and Steve's like, okay, a much more rangier guy, right? He's got a little bit more in his bag, understanding. He's a veteran player. He understands what he's going against. Then I like that, like you said, that philosophy of it. But, if Davante, how do you play against a guy like that, right? So if you had to, if this was your druthers, okay, your defense, what would you have done against Davante Adams that first half?
Yeah, that's a great question because of the fact that I think it's a pick your poison situation. Now, what the Chiefs definitely were able to capitalize on, or at least I would hope they would capitalize on, is the fact that Darren Waller went down early with a hamstring injury, which took away basically the middle of the field. What I would have loved to have seen is just a bracket on Davante Adams. I know Spags isn't the type of defensive coordinator that likes to do those types of things, but I think when it comes to a certain particular matchups, when you know you're going against an elite wide receiver and Derek Carr is going to feed him the ball, and especially when Josh Jacobs is getting these 5 to 8 yards at a clip on the ground, you have to be able to take away the deep ball. And I think that Justin Reed being able to stay over on that other side, putting L'Jarius Sneed over there in the slot, I think that would have helped a little bit more. But again, I just think that keeping one-on-one, again, with a 7th-round pick, as good as Jalen Watson has been this season, he's been really good. He's been a battler. I just felt like it puts him at an unfair advantage when you're going against the guy that, like you said, is going to give you his lumps. And my God, was he getting his lumps. But I think that Spags understood the assignment going into the second half, and I'm glad to see him do what he did with L'Jarius Sneed playing that one-on-one coverage, because L'Jarius Sneed to this point is the best corner on this team. I think Trent McDuffie could very well become that. We saw very early in that game, in that week 1 game, and when he gets back, hopefully next week, we'll see more of that. But L'Jarius Sneed held the fort down when he needed to, when he was given that assignment. But I just, again, I don't like the one-on-one, and like Eric felt the same way. Eric Warfield felt the same way, and that man played corner, so he obviously knows what he's talking about. And that's just the way I see it, man, I felt like in that beginning, that wasn't the right approach to take against Davante Adams. If you're playing a team that has Mike Williams as their number 1 receiver because Keenan Allen's out, I can live with that because I think you can survive that. But when you're facing the best of the best, you got to set your guys up for better success than that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Well, what did you guys make of the running game tonight? Because I think we only saw another thing. I know we talked about Pacheco. Maybe the last week was his coming out party. Pacheco got 1 carry tonight, and that was it. I don't really see much from him. He had 1 drive where he was in, and that was pretty much it. Then we saw McKinnon had that big burst, and that kind of jolted the offense, got everything going, and then we ended up scoring on that drive. But what did you make of the run game? I know CH is getting a lot of crud from his lack of vision, as some are saying. But his catching on the backfield, that's one of the things we loved about him out of college. And he's doing just that, being our kind of possession guy out of the backfield. What did you kind of make of the running game tonight?
Well, I'll start. This is the new nickname I'm giving CEH. It's Caveat Clyde, because he has these games where he'll do something awesome, and he'll have a really good game overall, and then all of a sudden he makes a boneheaded decision where he runs right into the C gap, and the C gap is clogged. Or like you saw the play when Patrick hit him right in stride and he wasn't even looking back. And that would have been potentially a touchdown pass. Another game where he messes up on a play that it was just grass in front of him. He's Caveat Clyde to me, man, and it was very frustrating to see some of those plays. But overall, I thought Clyde had a really good game. He's having his best season so far of his career because he understands that Pacheco's coming. He knows that Pacheco's coming. And Pacheco, I don't know. I can't explain what happened. He got that 1 rush. I think he got maybe 2 yards on the play. And after that,
it was 0 in the stats. It says he's got 0. I think I got 1 yard on it, but
yeah, it was nothing. It was a cloud of dust. And after that, you saw nothing. I believe that was in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And then, but I'll give McKinnon a lot of credit, man. McKinnon came in there, and it felt a lot like that Steelers playoff game where he literally could not be stopped. I didn't like some of the overthinking he did in those last drives where he kind of did a high step right at the line of scrimmage. I wanted to see him just attack and just try to get as many yards as he possibly could. He overthought a little bit. But McKinnon was insanely effective. I think there was a 3rd and long where he was hit like 5 yards into the rush and then ended up getting like another 8 or 9 additional yards with multiple bodies on him as an undersized running back in his 30s. That's credit to McKinnon for what he did, man. So he was very effective tonight, and I love the fact that this is why the Chiefs brought him back. Because in a rough spot, McKinnon's veteran abilities, knowing how to get these types of yardage, these yards down, those tough yards, he gets those down. And he's so fast, and what's great is the Chiefs pick their spots really well with McKinnon because he's still very quick and very nimble and very little, that when the defense needs a blow and they still have the same guys on there haven't been able to make a substitution, he's out there and he's blowing by these guys and getting those tough yards. So I really like what McKinnon did. I really like what Caveat Clyde did. I just want to see Clyde pay a little bit more attention sometimes, and when he sees the gaps, he attacks them, and when he knows he's on a pass play and Patrick will look his way, he needs to turn his head around, man, because like I said, green grass is in front of him. He just needs to get the damn ball.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge fan of McKinnon. You know, I've always liked his game, to be honest with you. And when you say a guy that is like you said, a veteran presence, understands the game, understands the pace, understands what to do in pass blocking. Like he has all of those skill sets that makes for a great back. And so he's a guy that you can rely on. That's why you bring a guy like that here, right? He's like, look, I can hang a hat on a guy like this that I can trust, that I know he's going to know what he's doing, okay? Like you said, if I need 1 yard or 2 yards, he has the awareness, he has the intelligence, he has the football knowledge to get those things, right? He's not going to put you in a bad, situation. Oh, dad got it. I'm frozen again. What the heck? I don't know, man. So anyway, I love McKinnon. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with mine.
You're good, man.
Yeah.
We can still hear you though. Just want to let you know that.
All right. Okay.
The one thing about McKinnon that I think Clyde's a good hybrid of a running, being able to be a third down back. And Clyde, he had 90 yards against one of the best defenses last week. So let's not say there's no vision. Clyde's good. But the one thing that he does, and McKinnon does so well, is the pass pro. And I think that might be what Pacheco, they may be seeing something at practice that Pacheco's maybe not doing that as far as pass protection. And in a game like that, and we're down 17-0, they know they need to go to throw mode. So I think McKinnon only had 8 carries. Yeah, McKinnon had 8 carries and Clyde had 9 carries. So it was mainly 43 pass attempts tonight. So they needed to go to throw mode, and they didn't want to have Pacheco in there. Maybe that speaks to his lack of pass protection. But McKinnon and CH are very good pass protectors, and the blitz pickup fantastic with both those guys. So maybe that's why we're not seeing much of Pacheco when we're down 17-0. And last week, different game script, we were up. So that's why we were able to kind of unleash Pacheco. What do you think about that?
Same thing week 1. You saw Pacheco come alive when the Chiefs had a big lead. It's because they knew, hey, this kid's going to run angry. This defense is totally down on themselves. He's just going to humiliate them. And I think this was just a vibe check tonight from Andy Reid and the coaching staff as they saw that I think this is a McKinnon night. And we knew coming into the season this was going to be a running back by committee. We knew that Clyde was going to be the guy that gets the majority of the looks, majority of the snaps. But it was going to be a running back by committee because all 3 of these guys have an ability to bring something to the table at any given time. They all have 3 different styles, though. And I think this is one of those games where McKinnon made more sense for the offensive attack, like you said, with the pass pro and getting those abilities. Because the offensive line was struggling, man, like I said. And Patrick was getting hit. He was getting rattled. And I think there was a couple times where Patrick may have gotten some happy feet. So I think Patrick, you saw a few times that McKinnon was running the chip on the right side, protecting on Wiley's side of the offensive line to extend the drive for Patrick Mahomes, give him another look so he can get his second and third reads. And it worked out. I think that's praise to Andy Reid. That's praise to Eric Bieniemy for recognizing that and putting the veteran McKinnon in there and letting him, whenever he's effectively getting the ball in his hands and getting those extending the drives or just protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side or front side. He was doing it all, man. And I got to give McKinnon a lot of credit and give Andy Reid and Bieniemy a lot of credit for recognizing that and putting him in there instead of the rookie Pacheco.
Yeah. And I got to agree with you, KSU 1989. That was one of the things that we thought we're going to see a lot more of going into the season, throwing to the CH out of the backfield, something we saw in Lowell to College. And we are seeing more of that, as Lance alluded to. It is his best season so far. And we are utilizing him more like the CH from LSU. You're not going to get 90 yards against every defense. It doesn't happen, So, I think using him and the kind of that RB committee that we have between CH and McKinnon and maybe sometimes Pacheco, I think that is where he's going to be utilized. I mean, that is what he's going to be in the NFL, I think. He's never going to be a bell cow type.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I don't know, I can't wait to watch this game, just off what y'all been saying and talking about. But I wonder if he just used McKinnon a little bit more because it was 20-10 at one point, right? Yeah. You go passing him. And a guy like this, I got to trust. I'm putting this guy in, they're going to be fine. They understand what you got to do. So, the eyes are not so big because of the lights and behind. It's just like, sometimes when you make those decisions as a running back, when you come in, you try to do too much. And so Pacheco is one of those things like, yeah, he's a young guy, right? He's not quite ready for these things to be in behind and putting him in for the running back, right? I need an experienced guy, a veteran guy who understands and been in these positions before. Yeah. So I think Pacheco, like you said, one guy was just saying that, like, he's still a work in progress. He's a young guy, man. There's a lot for him to still learn. But the good thing is he's learning behind 2 guys that are really good. He's in the best offensive football. And so he's going to learn a whole lot, and he's going to get better over time. But like I said before, I like Jared McKinnon just because of what he gives you, and a guy like that I could ride all day, no doubt about it. Like you say, CH, maybe getting the swing passes. I think he looked pretty good on some of those. But I can't wait to see his game, man, to actually see whatever, what y'all was talking about, what y'all see. So I'm going to have a treat after I get off this thing, man, because I'm going straight to the game, man, to watch this thing.
So another thing that Mark Twain mentioned here, so the kick that we had before halftime, it was the franchise record for longest kick. Matthew Wright, our backup kicker, has the longest kick in longest field goal kick in Chiefs history.
What?
59 yards.
He sunk that thing. JD, you're going to love it, man. And it was at the perfect time because the crowd, I have never heard Arrowhead that pissed off in my life. I've been to 190 Chiefs games. I'm over-exaggerating, but I've been to a ton of Chiefs games, and I've watched even more on television. I have never heard Arrowhead that pissed off. And when you saw him make that kick, because I felt like everybody was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see if he makes it or even gets close. And he cleared that thing by 3 or 4 yards, and the crowd just erupted, man. It was awesome to see, dude. That was awesome to see. And who would have thought some guy that just walked on the team a week and a half ago or whatever it was comes in here and sinks a damn near 60-yarder in Kansas City and sets the record. It was great, man. It really was.
You got to be kidding me. Wow. Look at this. Man, this thing is just filled with all type of morsels in drama. I can't wait to get on this game, man. Seriously.
Whose record did he surpass? Was it Bucker's?
What's that?
Whose record? Whose field goal did he surpass for the franchise record? Was it Bucker's?
I would think so.
I mean, I know Butker hit multiple around that distance at SoFi, but I don't know about Arrowhead. I don't know who set the record there, man. I know Pete Stoyanovich hit a few 50-yarders, 50-plus yarders in Kansas City, so it could be. I don't know, man. Old Petey.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't Morton. Morton was a lock from like 40 to 44, though. He was a lock from the short distance.
Morton was on his 30th year in the league. Man. But it was consistent. That sucker was good. Hey, clutch.
Yeah, right? Did he have the single bar? I think he had the single bar.
That's my guy.
Okay, it was Bucker with 58 yards.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so Lance, I guess before we go here, I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying here on our chat and on Twitter, and also after Thursday night, I even said it too. Stephon Gilmore was a guy that we had interest in the offseason. And that was a guy that we looked at. We were interested in him. We didn't get him. And he looks great with the Colts. Is that something that we need to look at? I know we drafted a lot of young guys. We brought in a lot of young guys. We got a first rounder that we haven't seen yet. But I feel like we still need a veteran out there. I know, Snead is that, but Snead's kind of a Swiss Army knife, plays all over the place. We kind of need that DB, like that veteran cornerback, and we don't have that. And we're gonna have our growing pains. We're gonna take our lumps in games like this against Devontae Adams or Mike Williams. Is that something we should have, in retrospect, in hindsight, gone after a veteran guy, DB?
Yeah, see, I wanted to see the Chiefs exercise that because I think going into this draft this season, we saw Brett Veach's tendencies. He doesn't go after cornerbacks early in the draft, and then he goes and gets McDuffie in the first round, trades up for him no less. So it kind of flipped the scale as to how Brett Veach attacks the cornerback position. So I think this team has been showing us more and more that when McDuffie gets back, that's what they believe is going to be the answer to that position. But I would very much kick the tires on bringing a Bashad Breeland or somebody like that that's familiar with the system just to add that depth presence to this team. But honestly, I'll be real with you. I think where the Chiefs need to attack bringing in veteran presence is on the defensive line, because now we saw Turk Wharton go down. He was immediately called out for the game. I don't know what his injury was, but he was hobbling off the field. Hopefully he's not gone for a long period of time. We know that Turk Wharton's a very effective player for this defensive line. Mike Dan is still banged up. I don't know when he's coming back. It feels like forever ago since he got hurt. I think it was the Chargers game at the very end. And I would like to see the Chiefs go after was it Brian Burns, I believe his name is, from the Carolina Panthers. I know that they're going to do a fire sale very soon. I know the Bills are looking at Christian McCaffrey. I know there's other guys on that team that they're going to try to push out there to try to get some draft picks. They have none right now, and they need to rebuild their team. I would like to see the Chiefs go out there and get a guy like that on a one-year deal. I know the Chiefs don't have a lot of cap space. In fact, I think as it currently stands, they have the least amount of cap space amongst all teams in the league with around $500,000. I would like to see the Chiefs make a move like that, because I think once you get that pass rush down, or at least more effective, I think that the cornerback position is going to look that much better, regardless of whether you have a ton of veterans or a lot of young guys out there, which the Chiefs mostly do. But these young guys have looked really good this season, so I'm going to give them a lot of credit. And I think when McDuffie gets back and puts that glue back on those receivers and sticks to their hips, all of a sudden the cornerback position is going to look a lot better, and you're not going to be facing Devontae Adams each and every week. So we'll take that with my guy JD said here, man. You're gonna face better Joes sometimes, man, and that was the case tonight. But yeah, kick the tires on Rashad Breeland, somebody like that understands the defense. Bring them in, get some depth in here, but more importantly, I want to see defensive line get padded up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about guys we kind of kicking tires on and saying names. When I was watching the Ravens play, and I was looking at JPP, I was like, "Dang, God, that sucker was looking good."
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah.
Nah, look, I get it. I do. I get having a veteran corner in here and having this presence, especially in the young secondary, is one thing that you would definitely benefit from. But also, I like the fact that you have young guys who are your challenging early, right? I mean. Let them grow right now. And so if you developing guys at the same time, that way the communication is there, right? You're keeping everything consistent. And so it's almost like Nazir was saying. He was just like, man, look, all these guys are in together communicating. They learn how to grow together and play together. And so when you're doing that, then it's almost like you have an incentive to make sure that other guy doesn't fail, right? And so it's like, look, we're all here growing together. And so we're all going to challenge each other to get better. And so whatever we have to do, whatever we need to do in practice, whatever we need to do in games, what we need to do as a unit to get better, that's what we need to do. And so I like the youth movement on this team in the secondary, because I think these guys are, man, they're just making us stars. That's what I see. I see the ability. It's there, and it's just, you're almost there. When you crack the code, seriously, it's going to be nasty. It will absolutely be nasty. And so, I don't know how many yards Devontae Adams had, but that one he caught over the middle, over Cook, and who was that? Was that Watson on the outside too? Was it Jalen? So was it? You got two young guys, right? Yeah. Devontae Adams give you almost like a double move. He gives you like the little hitch, and he's gone. And so that's Cook got to be over top of that. If you're the guy supposed to be over top, he cannot beat you deep, right? Yeah. He just can't. And so these guys they'll learn that, and so they'll know the very next time. Okay, coach, I got it. I understand it. I can't fall for that move. And so I just, I think, man, with that secondary, as much as they're going to be tried, because you're going to get some good receivers coming in these next few weeks, man. It's going to be, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like that. That's what you're seeing. Yeah. So, try it with Devontae Adams. See what you thought. Okay? This is a great game to learn and grow from. Okay? And then you could just go ahead and make a decision about what course you want to go, the action as far as how you want to do with the next team that's coming in. So, now it's going to be good. But, veteran presence on the D-line, I mean, I'm always for that. Always.
So we're seeing here at KSU 1989. You said that Tershawn Wharton has a torn ACL. I don't know if that's legitimate. Probably seeing something on Twitter about it, but if that's true, that's a huge loss. And I'd be getting on the phone with Nama Consumes people right now and bringing Sue in. I mean, that's a guy we've talked about, JD, on our show, on the show. That's a guy that we'd love to have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if Sue wants to keep playing football, he wants to pursue his career further. I think, he'd be a great guy. He's nasty. And putting him next to Chris Jones, you want to talk about the brothers of destruction right there. I mean, come on, boy. We're talking about Undertaker and Kane right there, boys and girls.
I mean, I will say this too, for all the people. What's up, Joe? Thanks for joining the chat here, buddy. I will say, to have the young guys, and this is what we talked about on the show before, JD, is having the young guys in there, kind of getting that experience. We knew this was going to happen. That's what happens when you have young guys. You're going to get the growing pains. You're going to have the lumps. But by week 10, week 12, these guys are kind of already they've gotten it. They've taken the lumps and the bruises, and they're ready to go. Trial by fire. And I mean, and I'll say 3 catches for Devontae Adams. I know we ended up putting Snead on him, but 3 catches on 7-9 targets. I mean, it's pretty good. Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns on those, so 3 for 124. The context matters there, but he went first quarter and then didn't get a catch till the fourth quarter at the end. I mean, I don't know. It's a fact that they're 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that does kind of suck.
But look, man, I don't think these guys are shaky. That's a good thing I like about it. They have confidence back there, right? You can tell when the guy's a little shaky back there, unsure of himself. Like, these guys are like, shoot, like, yeah, I missed this one. I'm gonna go get the next one, right? That's kind of what I see mentality-wise. It's like they like the challenge. Look, and I'm sure Spags is like, look, I don't care if you make a mistake, right? If you're trying to do the right thing and make a mistake, that's one thing. We can live with that. You have the ability. That's the thing about it. You got the skill set. You're good enough. And so when you have guys who are hungry, like I said, who have this understanding about what it is that they're looking for challenge-wise, I agree with you. About week 10, man, hey, they keep their mentality where it is and understand and just learn the game and the spacing and stuff, they're going to be all right, man. They're going to be all right, right? And I think a lot of it has to deal with who's rushing the passer up front, right? That's the pressure. Get the pressure on them so these other guys can eat. Don't leave these guys on the island all the time if you're not getting the pressure up front, right? And so we know that it's synonymous on being successful on the backside is having somebody up front to make sure that you get errant throws, you get some things that's off timing and stuff like that, right? And so I think that's, with a young secondary, taking the lumps early or doing these challenges, I like where the guys are mentally. I just think that they have a lot of confidence that they're playing, even though it might not look pretty all the time, right? I just think that it will come to fruition later on that these guys are just going to be good.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick on that, when I remember months ago before the season even started, and we saw the way the Chiefs built their defense going into this season, it was the opposite of what I anticipated. I was expecting the Chiefs go all pass rush and just get a really nasty front seven. Now, the front seven's been pretty good, especially when Willie Gay's been in there. But, I think Nick Bolton is one of the 10 best linebackers in football already. This guy is just absolutely nasty. Boom Bolton is what I call him. Guy's just booming everybody out there. But you clearly saw that Brett Veach, in my opinion, built this defense to be more like the 2013, 2014, and 2015 Seahawks, where you had this incredibly young, I might add, secondary. Now, I'm not saying they're going to become Richard Sherman. I'm not saying they're going to become Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor and these guys, but I think they have a chance. And it's because of what JD just broke down. Is these guys are getting baptized by fire. They're all playing together in unison, and they're all extremely talented. And the biggest point that JD just alluded to is the moment's not too big for them. Not one single time have we seen this season where Jalen Watson looked like he was just, I'm a 7th-round pick, I can't do this. Or Brian Cook's like, I'm a mid-round pick, I can't do this. It never, ever looked like that. It hasn't looked like that, and I can't imagine it's ever going to look like that because you see the confidence they've already exuded in their early stages of their career. So I think it's only going to be up from here. I don't want to sound like an overly optimistic person, but I can't help but be that way when Brett Veach has been crushing ass in the last few drafts that he's had. 2018 was horrific, but after that, it's gotten better and better and better and better each and every time. And I think these guys are going to pay dividends for this defense. They already are. But as it gets colder outside and it's going to be harder for these offenses to throw the ball, I'm telling you guys right now, I think these dudes are going to be making big plays for this defense. And I think JD's 100% right, is that sometimes games like this are going to galvanize some folks. And I think that's what you're going to see from these guys very, very quickly as the season progresses.
And I'll say this, talking about, putting these young guys out there early on in the season. You look at our first 5 games, you got Cardinals, they were without Hopkins, but they had Hollywood Brown, who's, one of the fastest receivers in the league. You have Chargers, you got Mike Williams, who, Watson had to play up against him. He kind of got dominated for much of that game. And what happened? He ends up making the game, the game-changing interception, pick 6. Colts, Michael Pittman, okay. And then Alec Pierce, who's a solid rookie.
Yeah, he starts showing up. Yeah.
And then Buccaneers, Mike Williams, of course. And then everybody else they had. Julio Jones came back. Godwin came back for that game. And then tonight, Devontae Adams. You didn't have Waller, but you had Renfro. So, these guys are going up against good receiving groups so far this season. So, and then next week at Buffalo. So, it's gonna continue. I would say it's probably the toughest stretch for a group of young guys to go against as far as receivers wise. Pretty tough stretch of receivers to go against. So I mean, yeah, they're going to take their lumps, of course, and they'll be better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the game plan. I'm looking at what Jalen Banks is saying right there. I think Spags has dialed some different things up, especially against Buffalo, right? I mean, the thing is, you got to come at Josh Allen. The thing is, you're going to make sure, Diggs don't kill you. Gabriel Davis had a monster game the other night, right? McKenzie, he's showing up every once in a while when you see him. But I think if you get those guys and you just get the pressure on him, on Allen, then you'll have, that's your game plan. Switch it up, some combination coverages, some pressures, right? I mean, you get pressure. Make sure you come at these guys so he's not being able to see it, okay? So I think if you do that, man, I think you'd be all right against Buffalo. So they got a lot of receivers. I mean, like across the board, that guys that go hit their head on the goalpost, right? So we kind of got embarrassed a little bit with the secondary we had last year in the playoffs. Ain't gonna let that happen again. I don't think so. So sometimes.
If you think about it too, guys, real quick, this might be the perfect game. How it went for the Chiefs before a game like this against Buffalo, because like JD just said, I mean, you're talking about these guys. Because let's be real, I mean, you're a young player in the NFL. JD, you were once one. You came into this league, and I'm sure there was a game here and there, man, where you had a really, really, really good game, and you're probably like, man, you know what? Hey, I'm pretty damn good at this stuff, and if you keep having games like that in succession, you go and play a Buffalo team like that's 4 or 5 deep in receiving options. You might get your clock cleaned a little bit, man. And so I think that a game like this, a divisional foe coming into your house in prime time where the world's watching, and you give up some big plays like that, you survive it, but you learn from it. All of a sudden, your attention and your focus is that much more. Because we know the Chiefs always get up for big games. And we know that even though that it's not a primetime game next week against the Bills, it's a much bigger game in totality for the Chiefs than tonight's game against the Raiders in primetime. So their focus is going to be even more imperative. And I think this type of game can get you really focused. Because we talked about the Bucs game. I don't think it goes like that unless the Chiefs lose to the Colts the way they did. I mean, obviously, I would have still picked the Chiefs. But I don't think the Chiefs come out and play as effective as they did in all 3 phases unless they had a game as frustrating as they did the week before. Well, I don't know if you guys missed it or not, but tonight's game was very frustrating in a lot of ways. Some the Chiefs can control and some the Chiefs cannot. But nevertheless, it was a frustrating game. And I think those are the kind of games that you see the Chiefs always answer back the next week, and they come out as poised and as focused as they ever have.
Right. Because you know what you're going to hear in the headlines? Devontae Adams torched the secondary.
Yeah.
It's what they're going to see. So they're going to be like, oh, hold on. Wait a minute. No. No. We got to change this narrative right now. Let's challenge ourselves to make sure this week coming up, it's not going to happen. So, hey, let that be Bolton, more material. Let it be. Okay? These young guys are up for it. I think they're up for it. So, yeah, let's get it.
So one last thing. I know we talked about a lot of different things, but the receivers is a big topic right now on the chat. What do you? So today, MVS had a really good game. I think he had like one or 2 drops. He had that one. I think we had 2 drops, I think, today. And then Juju had the one where he had the one hand the ball drop. So people are kind of surprised that we're not really seeing much from Juju. I think a lot of people expected more from Juju on the season so far. But I mean, if you look at the numbers tonight, it's spread around. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had 9 different guys catch a ball tonight. I mean, like that's every game I'm looking at. It's 9 to 8 guys catching a ball tonight. So it's hard for one guy to kind of dominate a game. But MVS had a really good game. He was 6 for 90 tonight on 8 targets. Juju, I mean, yeah, he's not giving the big numbers I think a lot of people thought. I think somebody said here, I think I'd rather have Mark Boerger right now over Juju. What do you think about JD? You like that?
Over Juju? You're talking about 2 good receivers, man. Look, and I'm going to say this. We knew this. We knew that the group collectively was going to be a good group. We knew it was going to just be one guy that's going to just kill you. That's not what this thing was going to turn out to. I didn't expect that. I expected, MVS, okay, Juju, Hardman, all these guys are going to hit you over the head. And we still, tight ends, I mean, you still got Travis Kelce, man. I mean, shoot, come on now. That's going to be your number 1 receiver. We knew what that was going to be. And so when you got a guy, a gunslinger in the back, and you have this type of offense, multiple guys are going to get the ball. That's just what it is. And look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I play fantasy. I didn't take none of these guys in the draft in my fantasy. I didn't take them because I knew they were gonna have like just monster numbers, astronomical numbers. I just knew that.
Yeah,
it was gonna be spread and peppered around like it should be, right? And they do a great job of doing that. And so, somebody said, the wide receiver didn't score. Well, Travis got 4 touchdowns. We scoring points. Be happy with that. I don't care who scores. I don't give a daggone if you give it to, I don't know who, the kicker. All right, let him score. Hey, we scoring points. We're getting wins. That's what matters. And so as long as those guys contribute, they might not contribute with having 5 for 120, okay? But you may have 3 for, 40 yards, whatever it may be. And another guy might have it 2 for 26, 4 for this. I'm fine with that. Moving the football and you win football games. That's all that matters, okay? The W's and actually moving forward, okay? So, I'm not looking for Juju to get 120 catches this year. Hey, if he ends up with 60, fine. And MVS got 45 and, Harmon's got, 42 and, all of that's what I'm looking for. That's fine. Collectively, this should be a good year. Yeah. With all the guys getting in touch with it.
I'll say this, and it might sound like a cop-out, but I genuinely believe it's like this. I think the Chiefs view their wide receiving depth chart a lot like a lot of teams view their running back depth chart, where it's a running back by committee. I think it's a wide receiver by committee. And I think that's why Patrick Mahomes prefaced the season by saying that. I think he meant that 100%. And I do believe we get caught up in 2 things, in particular in Kansas City. We get caught up in fantasy, like JD says. People want to see the fantasy football numbers each and every week because it's what we've become accustomed to. It's what we know. We love seeing the Justin Jefferson stats. We love seeing the guys that are putting up 1,700 yards a season. That's not the reality here in Kansas City. And furthermore, for the last, since 2016 all the way to 2021, Kansas City had a game-breaking Hall of Fame receiver in Tyreek Hill that put up those numbers on a normal basis. That guy's no longer here. So this offense had to adjust on the fly. And I think the guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS are doing the right things at the right times. And furthermore, man, we got to give Patrick a lot of credit here because I believe this is the 4th time in 5 games that he's gotten a reception to 9 different receivers in a game. Yeah. I believe this is the 4th time in 5 games. That's insanely effective. That's insanely efficient. And quite frankly, that creates a massive headache for defensive coordinators. Imagine being a defensive coordinator on a week, having a game plan for Patrick Mahomes, period, but knowing that you have no idea who he's going to beat you with. You just know that he's going to beat you eventually. You just got to try to figure out a way to let him beat you less. And with Travis Kelce having, I think it was like 7 or 8 receptions for less than 30 yards, but it still had 4 touchdowns, that just tells you how wild this offense is, man. It's just such a weird collection of talents and opportunities they put together. And if people talk about how everybody wants to be the Patriots dynasty, well, people also have to remember the first 3 championships the Patriots won. They had guys like Troy Brown and Deion Branch as their receivers. It wasn't like they had guys out there that were getting 1,500 yards a season. Tom Brady was making situational plays, situational throws, and their defense was making big plays, and they won Super Bowls that way. Patrick Mahomes is clearly better than what Tom Brady was the first 7 to 8 years that he was in his career, and these receivers are better than Troy Brown and Deion Branch. No offense to them, but that's just the facts. So they're in a much better position than they were even back then, and you saw the Super Bowl results are there. This team is going to be just fine, man. I hope people don't use this game as some worry because MVS, man, for the 2nd straight week has made some big baller plays, and him and Patrick Mahomes have connected. Juju, I still think he's on the come up. I think he's still dealing with that knee and shoulder injury. Don't want to make excuses for him because he's got to bring that ball down when he went up with one hand. I want to see him make those types of plays, but Juju's a long-term type of guy. You're going to see in week 13, 15, and in the playoffs, he's going to make some big plays for this team because he's too damn talented, and Patrick Mahomes likes him too much, and quite frankly, Andy Reid likes him too much because 2 years ago, he's sending him pictures of the Lombardi Trophy. They got plans for this guy. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. And I will say this. Deion Branch and Troy Brown were good receivers.
Hell yeah.
They were good. They were good.
Yeah.
But, everything you say, I agree with you 100% on that. I do. I like that, wide receiver by committee. No doubt about it. That's a wonderful way of saying it, truly.
Last question before we go, just kind of talk about the receivers aspect. And this is something since we started the Chief Concern show, we've always talked about in the offseason when receivers come, like we don't sign them, they end up signing elsewhere. We're like, why are they signing with us? What is that? Are we seeing now? I mean, obviously at the time we had Tyreek for the last, for the majority of the show, but are we seeing now the reason why receivers aren't signing with us? Because, like, let's say they sign a 1-year deal, like Juju, for example, he signs a 1-year deal. His numbers aren't going to be big time. I mean, the numbers that he's going to get this year won't be indicative to the contract he's going to want in the offseason. You know what I mean? Like, he won't be getting big time numbers after this season. So, I mean, let's say 65 catches, 800 yards. And I think that might be on the high side. Let's say that's a number. He's not going to get big time money from elsewhere. I mean, do you think that's a reason why the players, big time receivers, weren't coming to us and signing with us? And obviously using us as leverage, like, I'm thinking about going with the Chiefs, but they actually weren't going to come to us. They're just throwing our name in there.
I mean, I think coaches evaluate you on what you do on the field, right? Even if you catch 65 balls, if you're open and they know you're still a good receiver, you still get money, right? I mean, you can't use it against you. But like, look, man, you know what type of system I was in, what type of offense, right? So when you know you have, like you said, wide receiver by committee, you got, 5 other guys that's catching the football because that's what we do offensively in our system. You can't take it away from me because I'm still a good receiver. And I do believe that, like you said, that the Juju's still nursing a little bit of, little nicks and things up, right? It always seem like every week he's sitting out or something happened and like, he's not over, that just all these little nagging things. He's just not over it just yet. He's not fully healthy. And sometimes when they're looking for it, like, okay, later on in the week, let's get him going, get his reps up a little bit more, get him ready for the game. He'll show up. There's no doubt about it. Look, I have no problem with Juju because I know he'll show up when you least expect it. He's going to be there for you. I don't have any question about Juju and his ability whatsoever. I just don't. And like you said, with 9 receivers and 4 games, that's phenomenal. I mean, even just thinking about something like that, I mean, it really is. But, in the future, these guys worrying about contracts and stuff like that, hey, you know what? If you're doing that, you're on the wrong team. You are. Yeah. We're here to win games. We're here to win championships, right? And when you win championship, everybody wins, okay? There's a lot to go around from that point on. And so we'll just see it. Coaches evaluate it. Scouts evaluate it. What you did with the system, within the system and within the game, how it looks. And I'll say this, because I was thinking about a team. Now, I'm not saying we're not this team, but it's like when you have Mark Andrews throwing the ball to him. He's the number 1 receiver in the Ravens, right? He's getting the ball more than anybody else. Duvernay's starting to step up. But that's why these guys wasn't really playing out there with the Ravens either. Now, not just because, Lamar's not throwing the football that many times in the game, but also, too, you didn't have like the elite wide receivers because you knew it was going to be pass happy to Andrews. That's why they had 2 or 3 different tight ends. They was running with Hurst. I forgot Boyle or whatever his name was, I think was there too. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not saying that they're the Ravens like that, but I'm just saying when you're spreading out, that's what it's going to look like because we're a tight end heavy game as we should be. He's the number 1 tight end in the league for a reason. You're supposed to beat this guy, I'm putting my hat, I'm hanging it on him. I'm hanging it on 87. I'm giving it to him. So,
Yeah, to answer your question directly, Marcus, when it comes to receivers maybe not wanting to come here to Kansas City, I think there's a lot of context to it. If you look at the league right now, wide receivers are cashing out, man. I mean, you're seeing guys going to teams. It doesn't even matter what the structure of that team is. These guys are out there making bank, and God bless them for it, man, because these guys are going out there getting generational wealth for their skills and what they can bring to a team. And I could not be happier for these men to give their families that opportunity that most of these guys probably did not have growing up, and their families didn't before them. So it's really good to see. But here's the thing about Kansas City, man, is that you see a team like the Chiefs have success like that. It's naturally an attractive place. The thing about the Chiefs, though, is they've made it very evident that with the Tyreek Hill situation in particular, like, look, we're willing to pay somebody. We're willing to pay you $25, $26 million a year. Like, the Chiefs were definitely in the market to pay big bucks. But when he wanted to extend that and add to it after the Devontae Adams trade to the Raiders, the Chiefs had to eventually say, look, we have to hold a standard here. Because we're looking at this down the road. We're looking at this for future free agents where if they see us just let Tyreek run all over us and we just concede to everything and all his demands, they're going to try to do the exact same thing. So that's why the Chiefs had to standardize and say, look, not only are we confident that we can standardize this is going to work, we have a quarterback in the prime of his powers, the peak of his powers, that can find a way to win and put up historic numbers with guys that we're just talking about called a wide receiver by committee. And it's working. It's working. So although, yes, the Chiefs probably will never be in that market of where they're trying to outbid teams for other wide receivers, that is okay with us because it's working the other way around. But I still believe you're going to see stud receivers here throughout the duration of Patrick Mahomes' career because the Chiefs do want to give him talent, but you're just not going to see them go out there and overspend or overshoot their shot on a guy even like Odell Beckham Jr., who would be a great addition, but he's going to want to get paid too because he has the Super Bowl tax on his resume now. And so he's going to want to get paid somewhere, and he's only 29, 30 years old. That's just out of the Chiefs' market. It's too rich for their taste, too rich for their blood. I think the Chiefs know what they're doing. They have a vision. They have a goal in mind because they've waited their entire franchise's history for a special quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, building around him, giving him the assets. It starts with the offensive line, quite frankly. You build him a great offensive line, give him time to pick apart a defense. It almost doesn't matter. I know it sounds arrogant, but it almost doesn't matter who he has out there because as we're seeing, again, 4 of the last 5 weeks to start the season, he's hit 9 different receivers, and it's working. The Chiefs are the best team in my eyes in the AFC until proven different, and it's because of the fact, and it's no drop-off from losing Tyreek to having Tyreek. It doesn't matter. It might look different, but it's still just as effective, man. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Style points can go out the window as far as I care.
Yeah. So quick question to you both. Does Odell Beckham Jr., does he work here? Yes or no? What do you think?
I'll real quick, Marcus. I'll say this. The skill set does fit, but here's the problem, is that Andy Reid's offense is so particular that it's going to take him 7-8 weeks at least to really become that fluid, effective receiver. But he's so skilled, I'd be willing to give it a shot if the money made sense. Only if the money made sense. But if he's asking for $15 to $20 million, hey, man, best of luck. Go to another team. Go to a team that's probably going to win 7 games this year because those are the only teams that are going to really overshoot their money like that.
I think he would. And I guess after seeing the whole Josh Gordon thing, how that whole thing played out, like the playbook aspect, and obviously that he never really got the grasp of that up until this past offseason. But how, not to say that Andy Reid's playbook is so much, much more complex than Sean McVay's, but from the jump in the LA, from his first game, he was getting targets and getting like 3 catches a game. And I can't see that playbook being any more or any less complex than Andy Reid's playbook. So, I mean, like, can you kind of explain that to me, JD, why, he was getting targets and catches right away in that system, and he'd only been there for like a week?
Yeah, I do believe that. I do believe it may be similar. I don't know if the complexities of it, maybe the wording, maybe, I don't know, philosophy-wise, the difference between those two, right? We just know that both Andy and McVay are offensive geniuses, right? And they're going to put guys in a position to make plays. I think maybe part of the problem would be when you bring a guy like that here, who you leaving out? Will you deal with the ego? Will he have an ego when he gets here? Like you said, is the money right? Is for him to come and say, hey, you know what? Hey, yeah, I'll take another, somewhat reasonable contract to come in and win another championship. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I think maybe part of the problem is his health is my question.
Yeah.
That's that, shoot, ACL and him coming back. I mean, I don't know.
That's a good point there. Gordon was catching TDs with the Seahawks and Pats right away, and they came here and couldn't figure it out. I mean, is that more to the playbook aspect, that their playbook is not as complex than ours? That was the McDaniel system, and who was the OC up in Seattle at the time?
I think that was Schottenheimer at the time. I really do believe it was young Schottenheimer that was their OC when Josh Gordon was up there, and they ran a very basic. That was what Russell Wilson was pissed off about, is that they weren't running anything that was schematically. They were calling it archaic, basically. They were calling it very archaic, where it was old school run first offense. So yes, I understand that. My point though is I just think that Odell's going to want to come into wherever he's at and be the star figure. And that's just not going to happen in Kansas City when you have Travis Kelce already being that guy. He's the bell cow on the receiving option. I would, again, clarify here. If the Chiefs sign OBJ, they find a way to fit him in the cap, I'm going to be happy about it because the dude's insanely talented. I trust Andy Reid and I trust Patrick Mahomes. They'll find a way to figure it out. But when it comes to style, again, McVay and Andy Reid have a very different style of offense in my eyes from what I've seen. McVay plays a different style. So I think Odell fit that system really, really well immediately. And you saw that pay dividends. Could it work here in Kansas City? Yes, I'm willing to give it a chance. I just see the way that most guys that come into Andy Reid's offense, they don't usually come into it and just start hitting the ground running. It usually takes the time. Even Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, back when they first started getting going in the Andy Reid offense, it took them a couple years to really become who they were. Now, they were younger players, obviously. They weren't veterans when Andy Reid took over. The point, though, I'm trying to make, though, is that you've heard it throughout the years. Man, Andy Reid runs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes before the game was breaking down the non-technical plays, and it was like a 15 term call that they had, and like, oh yeah, let's keep this not technical, and it was like 15 words. That Odell Beckham to me is a guy that probably is going to have to take some time to learn that. If they do it, that's awesome. I just don't see it happen. I think he's going to want to cash out. If he was still chasing a ring, I could see him coming to Kansas City. He got his ring, man. He got his glory. Now I think he's trying to get that last big paycheck, and I don't blame him, man.
So, okay, so I'll speak it in terms like this. So part of that would be terminology, right, that he has to learn. But number two would have to be what you're trying to do offensively. And so what I see what the Chiefs are doing, you were saying archaic up there with Seattle, which highlighted what Josh Gordon could do. It's the same thing like Allen Robinson is not doing out there right now with McVay, right? Yeah. Same thing. Well, how come he's not getting the ball? Well, he's not in that traditional offense that Allen Robinson, like they run with this guy, okay? And so you're trying to I always said this, you're trying to take this square peg and put it in a circle. That's what you're trying to do. And it's tough for a guy like that, a long, lanky guy. It was hard for Josh Gordon to get down here to learn, man, sit in a hole, find a window, move your feet if you're not open initially. And that for a big guy, it's different. It's different, especially if you're not playing like tight end. Tight end is like you roam the middle. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to find a hole in the window as a tight end. Wide receiver, it's a more shiftier, smaller guy offense. I've always said that. It's the same way, but I don't think he used the difficulties what Andy does as far as like with his motion, with the creativity as much. I think Andy, what he does, man, is just, when you're doing that terminology, it's the motion, everything, the window dressing that goes in with it. I don't see they don't do it out there in LA. They just don't, So they said he didn't take away from Cup. Well, yeah, he didn't, but who else they had? Van Jefferson wasn't really doing nothing out there, right? OBJ, it was perfect for him. He's that type of guy, right? He's a small guy, finding windows, finding holes. That's what OBJ does. So
it worked out perfectly too when Robert Woods went down with the ACL.
Yeah,
that was right as OBJ signed like the same week, so that fit perfectly for him as well.
How come Robert Woods ain't necessarily making it all the way down to Tennessee, right? Why? Yeah,
that's a Tannehill problem, I think.
That too, right?
I did see one here that it was a connection to you, JD. That the question was not more of a question, it was more of like a similarity. Talking about the Chiefs receiver crew to your other team, the Eagles. Talking about the early 2000s Eagles, saying our receiver group kind of likens to the Thrash, Pinkston, Freddie Mitchell days with LJ Smith at tight end. Yeah. What do you think about that comparison? Because I think it's a pretty good comparison. Because
yeah, it's a good comparison. Thrash, Pinkston, Mitchell, because those guys, those was hard workers, put hard hats on and came to play, but they were smaller guys, and smaller built guys. True. So, I know all those guys, but all those guys, that's what you had. You had those type of guys out there, and that's what you gave McNabb. You didn't have like a big receiver trying to do those things, and so it's a little difficult. So it's good. It's great comparison. Great comparison.
And they ended up bringing T.O. to town because they needed that number one guy. Maybe Odell could be our T.O.
Well, I think you would agree with me on that, JD. I think that the Terrell Owens, the importance of him being there is to bring up the abilities of Donovan McNabb as well, because Donovan McNabb was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes is a great quarterback. There's levels here, so I think you don't need so much of Terrell Owens if you already have an elite quarterback, whereas you could tell he kind of was at max with guys like Thrash and Pinkston, Freddie Mitchell, guys like that. They're good receivers, but you needed that guy that can get you, those 1,400 yards a season. Once you saw that, they got to the Super Bowl. They broke that. They got off the schneid on that one. So I think with a team like that, you have to have a Terrell Owens.
Right. Yeah. No doubt.
Chad Lewis, also Greg Lewis was on that team too.
Yeah. Who was oh shoot, other tight end?
It's LJ Smith and who was the other tight end?
I see his face.
Well, the fullback was John Ritchie, wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't?
No.
But regardless, they had a plethora of weapons on the team. You had Westbrook, Corral, Buckhalter. Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of good guys in that backfield too.
So there's one at Rock, man. So.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for our post-game reaction show. We'll see you guys for the Chief Concerns people. We'll see you guys Thursday, where we'll go into the preview for the Buffalo Bills, and then you can catch Lance the Spoken on a Saturday. Lance, what do you got cooking for this week for the show?
A lot cooking, man. We're gonna have some obvious reactions to this Chiefs Raiders fiasco on prime time. We're gonna give you guys our full thoughts. We're gonna try to have a guest on. Maybe we'll just have our original three on the show. We're obviously gonna have a lot of stuff around the sports world because we don't just talk Chiefs. We talk a lot of NBA. We talk in the NFL across the board. We give full slate picks, and then obviously we're gonna be talking about Chiefs Bills, maybe the biggest game of the season for the Chiefs. This could decide where the AFC Championship will be hosted. Who knows, man? It's very early in the season, but, man, we got a lot to unpack. It's going to be a fun show. Don't miss it on Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Guys, we'll be live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Awesome. Definitely tune into it, Lance's show, and tune in Chief Concerns on Thursday. So we'll see you guys next week when we hopefully talk about a good ending to the Chiefs-Bills game. Hopefully not as much of a roller coaster like tonight or the last time we saw the Bills. I'm hoping for a victory that we know that we won from midway on in the fourth quarter, so we don't have to be up and down all night long. So I need to keep my hair black, not no gray hairs.
Bring them on, baby. Bring them on. Boys is ready.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Love you guys.
See you guys. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get podcasts.